Hi, everyone. I'm Kara Gibson Bristwa. I am the owner and managing partner of Exit Equity. We work with business owners as they're preparing to sell their privately held business. And today we're mixing up the format a little bit, and I'm very excited to have Erin Pohan here with me. Erin is the owner of Upkeeping, and her firm is a bookkeeping and accounting firm that work with small business owners. She is one of our team's go-to resources. Erin and her team use best practices as they're working with their business owners in bookkeeping and accounting, and their integrity and work ethic is just top notch. So excited to chat with you today, Erin.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. At Upkeeping, our mission is to help make accounting understandable and relevant to business owners of all stages. And yeah, working with partners like you is really fun.
It is. I know it makes it so much great. Like, and this is kind of why this all kicked off is Erin and I and Phil talking in the hall and kind of getting excited about best practices and different things that we can do as we're working with business owners. And with that, Erin, I would love to pick your brain here for people to listen in. What are if you had a room full of business owners, what would you tell them? What do you wish that you could tell them to do that they might not know to do now that will help them create a business that has stronger value in the future?
This question's answer is going to vary depending on what stage the business owner is in. So, for new business owners, we tend to focus on number one, making sure they have a dedicated business bank account. Transactions are ordinary and necessary flowing through those accounts, and there is no mix of personal versus business. For business owners who are mid stage, maybe late stage, the focus tends to be more on making sure they are actually in their books, understanding what's happening, paying attention to the story that their financial transactions are telling. What I mean by that is most of those business owners tend to, I won't say most, but what I have seen is they tend to set and forget their accounting processes, meaning they look at their bank account, there are deposits and expenses flowing in and out. So something's working right. They've got their customer invoices set, they're receiving customer deposits, they've got recurring expenses, they've got payroll Fridays, but what's happening in the in between? And typically, when you sit down with some of those business owners, they can't tell you why a certain expense account was high 3 months ago because they don't remember and they haven't looked at it since.
Yeah, and I get to see that a lot, right? Because we're coming in at the end and looking back over several years and going, hey, why has this account crept up so much? Why are your office supplies all of a sudden three times more expensive than they were last year? And at that time, if they're like, I don't know, but it's just ways that, expenses can sneak up on them. And then when they're really looking at it in the harsh light of day, they're like, oh man, maybe I should have been kind of tracking this a little bit more. Um, but if so, and I guess one other thing that I think about a lot is kind of on that end, when I'm finally looking at books with owners, sometimes they're like, they've only been managing them their whole time owning the business, 20 years maybe, of just for their eyes only, or them and, just their bookkeeper's way of doing things. What are some things that business owners should be doing when it comes to kind of managing those books that you often see that they aren't doing?
Number one is making sure all transactions are recorded in a timely manner, meaning at least once a month they are sitting down and looking at their transactions, making sure they are ending up in the correct profit and loss accounts, whether income or expense, and just having that review time while things are still fresh in their head, in their mind. After that, they really should be reconciling their books. That means looking at the bank statements or the credit card statements and making sure that everything that appears on those statements has entered their accounting record. So that way, that minimizes the chance of duplicate transactions entered or missing transactions. That is like the number one thing that I see business owners miss is the tax deductible expenses that they have paid and have forgotten to record into their accounting system. And that's money off the table.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And that's why it's so nice to have a professional looking over your shoulder and helping with that. And I know sometimes people think, well, it's an expense, but it's such a helpful expense that in the long run saves you money, right?
Yes, it also holds them accountable. And sometimes that's just what people need. For my clients, we meet once a month. They know that they have to have answers to the questions that I will during that meeting. And if they don't, they know I will be waiting for the email once they're able to go back and research. But what I do, I mean, as recent as yesterday, is I bring things to their attention. For example, one of our clients had a $20,000 logistics expense on their P&L. They're an e-commerce client. I asked them about that. I brought it to their attention. Turns out that was a vendor from 3 years ago who has no business charging them that ACH pool that they took of $20,000. And so
Whoa.
they were so grateful that I caught that, brought it to their attention because now they have to go back to the vendor, get the money back. And that's a pretty considerable amount of money to just have taken out of their account. So without that second set of eyes, it could have very easily been missed.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then trying to figure that out. And a year from now, or when they're finally doing their taxes, that's so much harder to go back and figure out.
Yes, and as the transaction volume goes up, so as businesses become more successful and business owners become more busy, they might not catch items like that. They really do need someone else to come and step in to understand the nature of their business, to find those anomalies, to also point out things like, why is advertising so high? Are we going to pay attention to your return on investment in future months to make sure that you're actually making the money that you thought you were going to make with, 5 times Facebook ad spend?
Yeah, I just love that so much, like the accountability aspect, because any business owner is so busy, right? Either working on the strategy, working on the business, or working in the business. And so you're so right, just to have someone that's a thought partner with them and knowing that that person, that bookkeeper has their back and is just kind of going to be that second set of eyes can help so much, and especially in the long run, right? Because then when I'm coming in and asking about things, it's not just the business owner, but they can also kind of bring in their bookkeeper to help understand what the changes are and where expenses are.
Absolutely.
What so if someone has been kind of organically letting their accounting and bookkeeping and QuickBooks grow, how can they kind of come back from that and whip their business back into shape?
If they have not been managing the actual transactions and making sure that they are landing in their correct profit and loss, expense, income accounts, or even balance sheet accounts. We work with a lot of clients to do what we call catch up cleanup projects. So we go back as far back as we need to go into their accounting records, and we typically first just create a report of what we're noticing, and then we ask for permission to change those accounts, with an explanation as to why we're changing those accounts. Because a lot of times those cleanup catch ups may not turn into a continuing engagement. The owner might want to continue from that point. With those, we always stress the importance of maybe having a consulting call and maybe a consulting check in to make sure they're still doing it right 3 months later. Um, a lot of
Yes.
times,
I
though,
love
they
that.
do turn into monthly clients because they realize, uh, okay, this is nice. Like, I don't have to do the books and they're doing it right. And they can tell me the story of what all the transactions, tell in almost real time. They really find the value in it upon the end of that cleanup engagement.
Oh my gosh. And I find the value of it far down the road. Again, it's one of those things. It's like just getting your house in order, and it pays off in spades later down the line, because then, as I say, you want books that, not just a business owner themselves is able to read, but that third parties are able to, and a potential interested buyer is able to, and banks are able to. And I think that can be important too. You never know, just for planning, of if you're going to end up going and getting an SBA loan or a growth loan. There's just, by the
Yes,
time you need someone to take a peek into your books, it's too late to go back and clean it up for 3 months. So eat your
exactly.
vegetables, right?
Yeah, and there should be no fires in accounting. Like, you should really not wait until tax time. If you have to, please hire someone who could be looking over those transactions in the meantime, because no one wants that stress.
No one wants that stress. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Okay, well, so what advice do you have for someone that just bought a business and maybe they're buying into something that has a little bit more of an organic historical financial statement, bookkeeping, tracking? What would you tell them? How should they start to start on the right foot?
I think consulting with an accountant or a bookkeeper on the state of the historical transactions is a great start, because
Mm,
they will have the insights to see what the story was before, see if there's any areas that have a room for improvement. And then, depending on what that new owner wants to do, maybe there's opportunity for the accountant to come in and just take the stress of the bookkeeping or the financial transaction recording off of their plate.
yeah, awesome. Okay, and we've touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to ask it one more time because it's so important. But Erin, why does it matter to keep my books clean as a business owner?
Yes. When you mentioned needing a bank loan or buying a house or trying to sell your business one day, the first item that these outside parties typically ask for is your profit and loss statement. They want to make sure that you are profitable. Now, banks will also ask for your balance sheet because they want to make sure you don't have um, too much debt on record before they issue you another loan. Um, it's so important to have your accounting records clean, consistent, and as up to date as possible, because really you want others to be confident in the finances of your company if you are trying to sell it to gain more um, capital to do further operations or continue building your dreams.
I love that. I'm just going to cut that snippet out and play it for my clients when, they ask me why this is important. I'll say, don't hear it from me. Hear it from the professional that's doing this day in, day out. So,
Yeah.
well, Erin, thank you so much for coming and sharing. I know this is really helpful information that business owners need to hear. So, if any of them are kind of looking inwardly at themselves and knowing they could use a little bit of a cleanup or a great bookkeeper guidance, how can they find you and your team?
Yes, we are upkeeping.co. You can go on our website and fill out a form submission easily or schedule a discovery call that way as well. You can reach me at my email personally, Erin, Erin, at upkeeping.co. We're also on LinkedIn and Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Erin, so much. I really appreciate your time today and looking forward to talking with you again soon. Have a good
Yeah,
one.
thank you. See you around.